BBC Radio 1.
We're in survival mode in the Arctic this lunchtime.
Our clothes are still kind of wet and cold, and in some parts are frozen. It's been a really rough time this last 2 days.
We'll follow the Royal Marines training American forces in the art of cold weather warfare.
Newsbeat.
Also before 1, we'll speak to the 17-year-old who stepped in to help when a heavily pregnant woman was stabbed.
All of a sudden I hear this yelling from an old elderly man, and me and my mates run up, and we literally just see this woman on the floor and she's just covered in blood.
A lot of new dads look forward to going back to work to get a bit of rest. Didn't work out like that for Andy Murray.
Murray has got the job done for Great Britain once again after 4 hours and 54 minutes of the most intense drama here in Birmingham.
And we'll hear how Beyoncé did a bit more than just help out with the teas at her daughter's school fete.
BBC
Newsbeat.
But first this lunchtime, let's get the latest on how to stop Europe's worst refugee crisis since World War II. Thousands of people continue to risk their lives by making the dangerous sea crossing from Turkey to Greece. Today, EU leaders are putting pressure on Turkey to stop so many making that journey. Here's Lindsay Brown.
They're wrapped in blankets and have few possessions. Yet another rescue boat arrives on the Greek shoreline carrying hundreds of people.
It's very cold. No water, no food. We didn't eat no food 2 days, 2 nights.
Many are escaping war in Syria. Others want a better life, but most are desperate and don't care where they end up.
I don't know. Every country here is good.
It's just a 6-mile gap between Turkish mainland and the Greek island of Lesbos.
It is a very traumatic journey.
Boris Cheshakov is an aid worker on the island.
This sea is extremely dangerous. It's been perilous, not just this year where over 400 people have lost their lives, but last year alone in the Mediterranean 3,700 drowned or went missing.
But thousands do make it. The island of Lesbos is now home to 4,000 migrants who live in makeshift camps. Under the plans being discussed today, European leaders want to send many of them back across the sea to Turkey unless they qualify for asylum.
I will not go back. I will jump in the sea, or I will, hang myself.
If they force me to go back in Turkey, even in Pakistan, I will suicide here. Not gonna back because it's a matter of my life.
But many refugees don't want to stay in Greece. On its border, 13,000 are trying to leave, but neighbouring Macedonia is refusing to let them in. Many migrants in the camp rely on food handed out by volunteers, and things like firewood are scarce. Aid worker Babar Balok is there.
You see the sea of people, majority of them are women and children, and not many are being allowed to pass. So if the things continue like this, we think we are going to end up seeing a huge problem at our hands here.
With 4,500 miles of coastline, Turkey has a big task trying to police it. Europe wants to focus on stopping the people smugglers who take the migrants on the dangerous and illegal journeys across the sea. And Britain's sending a Royal Navy ship and a helicopter to help. Here's the Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon.
What's essential is to work out where this people smuggling is done from, and then to get a policy in place of returning people, which in the end will stop people making this very, very dangerous crossing.
The EU is also aiming to declare the route north through the Balkans closed. Maya Mailer from Oxfam says it won't work.
If you close the migration route from the Western Balkans to Austria, another one will appear because these people really are desperate.
Charities warn that Europe hasn't got a full grasp of the problem, and as the EU leaders and Turkey continue to talk, more overloaded boats arrive on Europe's shores.
We came here because we felt that Europe is the country of humanity. Please, make a solution.
BBC Newsbeat.
A 41-year-old man's appeared in court this morning, charged with the attempted murder of a heavily pregnant woman. It happened in broad daylight on Friday afternoon in Sutton Coldfield. Doctors delivered the baby girl hours later, and both she and her mother are stable. The woman's families praised 5 people who helped her. 17-year-old Christian Blundell was one of them.
All of a sudden I hear this yelling from an old elderly man. Like, you could just hear it. It was like he was proper screaming it. And me and my mates run up, and we literally just see this woman on the floor, and she's just covered in blood. Like, she's covered in a lot of blood. Like, there's blood all over her face, all over her body, all over her legs. There's puddles of blood on the floor. And there's this man, and basically one of my mates have threw him backwards, and we've all put ourselves between the woman and the man to stop the man getting towards the woman, and we've kept him there until the police arrived, which was minutes later.
So what were your feelings then at that moment?
Scared, a bit nervous, more in shock really, because I've never seen this happen before. It just came quite as a shock to me. When it comes to stuff like that, like, you got to think, like, what do you do? Do you help her or not? And obviously we chose to help her.
So in the moments then in between you going over and seeing the woman and the police coming, what happens in those few minutes?
We got our napkins to stop the blood, got a drink like water to keep her calm. My main concern was, like, I was hoping the woman was okay and the baby was okay. I'm overwhelmed with, like, happiness that this baby has survived.
The word hero has been used. How does that make you feel?
I don't consider myself a hero. Like, there were many more people that helped, and I don't really feel like the word hero is necessary. I just feel like we're all doing the duty to help this woman as anyone else should do.
And what about your mum and dad? What have they said about it all?
My mum and dad are really proud. They're just so happy that I was there at the right time. We were all there to stop this man. They're really pleased that I pulled through. We all pulled through for this woman.
BBC
Newsbeat. We're heading deep into the Arctic Circle now, where Newsbeat's had special access with the Royal Marines. They've been training US forces in the art of cold weather warfare.
Our clothes are still kind of wet and cold, and some parts are frozen. It's been a really rough time this last 2 days.
It's all to do with Russia. There are fears the country could use force to take control of parts of the Arctic and claim rights to vital trade routes and energy reserves. Here's James Waterhouse.
Welcome to the mountainous area of Porsangmoen. This Norwegian military training area is the size of Belgium, and it stretches all the way to the Russian border. At the moment, we're going up a road which looks more like a ski slope in a bandwagon, a small military vehicle with tracks underneath, and it's a bit too cold to be stuck out the top of this hatch for too long.
In the middle of this snowy valley, there are more than 200 dots moving around. They're mostly US Marines in their late teens and early 20s. They're thousands of miles from home, and right now, they're being made to jump into a frozen lake.
The reason you're here today is to do a safety drill.
The Royal Marines have trained in this hostile world for 50 years.
Okay, out you come, good. Drive and kick.
And now, they've got some new students. Corporals Nate and Mark from the US Marine Corps are 2 of them.
It was really cold. It's gonna be a shock. Yeah. It's hard to talk and hard to breathe while you're inside the water.
My brother's in the Marine Corps, and watching him graduate boot camp was honestly the sole reason why I joined the Marine Corps.
Because we're so far north, the sun only pokes up above the horizon for a few hours a day at this time of year. As for the snow, it can get up to several metres thick and is really soft. Major Adam Rutherford from the Royal Marines knows this area well.
The reason the Royal Marines come here is we know if we can operate here, we can operate anywhere around the world or anywhere around the globe. So this is a testing ground. You couldn't get any tougher and more demanding.
I've just stepped through and the snow has come up to halfway up my thigh. So that's about 3 feet of snow, and it's almost impossible to walk through.
This is all part of a large NATO military exercise, and it's aimed at Russia. 2 years ago, the country used force to take over part of the Ukraine, and it caught the West by surprise.
Response to Russia's actions in Ukraine earlier this year.
With Arctic ice caps melting, new shipping trade routes could open up, and the West doesn't want Russia to control them. So the NATO alliance of almost 30 countries wants to send a message to Russia's president, Vladimir Putin.
One of the reasons why we're in Eastern Europe is to support our partners and deter Russian aggression.
Oh no, I can't see.
Us coming here and learning from the best cold weather trainers in the world is a fantastic opportunity.
The US Marines have been on the move for 2 days. Right now they're digging and making huge piles of snow.
Keep you warm in this environment, I tell you that.
Which they'll eventually hollow out and sleep in as a shelter.
We started digging around like 9:45 and we didn't stop digging until at least 1700.
So you have to get on your front and you got to climb through. Well, for me it's quite a tight hole, but inside is quite an open space. I can kneel up quite easily. There's a shelf where the guys sleep and all the cold air gets trapped in the trough below.
Staying alive. I blame the driver on that.
This experience hasn't been easy for most of the US Marines, but tucked inside their snow shelters, they seem motivated to fight in this environment if they have to.
I say we would be ready for anything that comes our way, to be honest. That's how we as Marines are, just ready.
Respond and serve without a question.
Now, we're not suddenly going to see full-scale Arctic fighting with Russia, but like most things in the military, it's all about being prepared.
I'm so if we go to war with Russia. I can't figure out how to move this.
And you can watch the full documentary Fighting in the Freezer on the Newsbeat YouTube channel or Radio 1 on the iPlayer. Newsbeat.
BBC.
Sport now with Simon Mundy, and Britain's sports personality of the year did it again in the Davis Cup.
Nishikori has gone onto the baseline. Play continues. His backhand is long. And Murray has got the job done for Great Britain once again.
3 wins in 3 days for Andy Murray. Not a bad effort, eh, Simon?
Crikey. Not at all, Sinead. And remember, this was Andy's first competitive appearance on a tennis court in 5 weeks, because, of course, he's been busy changing nappies following the birth of daughter Sophia. Now, Kei Nishikori, no slouch either. World number 6, former US Open finalist, who was undoubtedly fresher than Andy after skipping the doubles ahead of their match, that clocked in just shy of 5 hours. So it's no wonder GB's skipper Leon Smith dubbed Andy his man of steel.
He manages to find a way, fight all the fatigue, the pressure, the stress, the emotional hurdles that are thrown at you through a match like that, and he manages to come out the other side as the victor. It's astounding actually what he does time and time again.
Cracking weekend for Britain tennis-wise. The good news doesn't end there. Heather Watson has jumped 31 places in the world rankings. She won her 3rd tour title at the Monterey Open. She's now ranked 53rd, second behind Johanna Konta in Britain. She's the world number 26. Now, England's footballers, well, they had reason to be aggrieved at the dubiously named She Believes Cup, conceding a late pen.
Back it comes, Pop. Is that a penalty? It is. Farrah Williams has conceded one here.
Hang on. Let's have a look at the replay of that.
It's not a penalty.
She wins the ball, Farrah Williams. Pop kicks Farrah Williams.
Yep, super dodgy penalty decision cost England dear against Germany. That they lost 2-1 to leave coach Mark Sampson livid.
It's incredibly tough for the take. That's 2 games in a row now where we've had Stonewall penalty not given for us, and a ridiculous decision today to give a penalty against us.
So played 2, lost 2. Just the French left, and no chance of England ending up champs, unfortunately. Now at cycling's Track World Championships in London, the likely lads of Mark Cavendish and Sir Bradley Wigo came from a lap down. They recovered from a calf spill that left him visibly wobbly on his feet and still won the Madison.
We ended up quite far back behind, like some of the teams were getting lapped.
They've got a bit of a gap here. The crowd start to roar.
And I was like, I can't.
There's a crash. It's Cavendish. Cavendish on the deck, picks himself up straight away.
When we went, we just went. We had to just give everything.
And Wiggins crosses the line there for Great Britain, and they are the world champions in the Madison. That was pure sporting drama.
And Laura Trott picked up her 2nd gold too in another complex cycling event, the Omnium. And finally, lots of speculation knocking around that this guy could be for the chop today.
Very disappointed we carry on like that. That's going down material, without a shadow of a doubt.
Steve McLaren there backing his own team to be relegated after defeat at home to Bournemouth, leaving Newcastle with their lowest ever points haul after 28 Premier League matches, just 24 points. Now, statistically, he is the third worst even Toon manager ever. And one name being bandied around as a possible replacement, that Man U legend, David Moyes.
BBC
Newsbeat.
So, imagine your mum rocking up to a school fundraising event in a sparkly mini dress and belting out Whitney Houston classics. Yeah, it's not a great image, right? Then again, your mum isn't Beyoncé. Over the weekend, the school where Bee's 4-year-old daughter Blue Ivy attends held a charity gala. And while most other parents might have baked a cake or sold raffle tickets, Beyoncé put on a surprise concert. We're talking full band and backing dancers. There's videos and pictures of all of this via the Newsbeat app or on our website. Newsbeat.
BBC Newsbeat.
This is
Where it begins.
BBC